This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. OTAs, or over-the-air updates, are supposed to fix things, right? Well, Volvo discovered that an OTA that it issued in April to fix backup camera failures in 400,000 vehicles caused a brake defect in 11,500 of its EVs and PHEVs. It happens when drivers are using regenerative braking, and it can cause the car to lose its brakes. Volvo immediately stopped installing the update once it discovered the problem and has fixed most of the affected models. But safety advocates say there needs to be more government standards for software updates to ensure that the fixes are validated. According to NHTSA, nearly 7 million recalled vehicles in the U.S. were fixed with OTAs last year, up from just under 3 million in 2023. But those software updates can also cause other issues. Looks like Tesla is getting off to a bad week at the same time that Elon Musk just got a $27 billion windfall. First, the bad news. Tesla's sales in China dropped more than 8% last month. It sold less than 68,000 cars, including exports. In fact, sales have fallen for 9 of the past 10 months in China. Last year, the Model Y was the best-selling car in China. But even with the refreshed version of the Y called Juniper, sales are down more than 17% this year. Based on the first half of the year, we calculate that sales of the Y in China will be down 28% for the full year unless Tesla figures out how to get things turned around. And that's going to be hard to do, maybe not so much in China, but certainly in the US and Europe. S&P Global Mobility says it has never seen brand loyalty collapse as fast as it has at Tesla. As recently as June of last year, Tesla's brand loyalty was the best in the business. 73% of Tesla buyers said they would buy another Tesla, far above any other car brand. But after Elon Musk endorsed Donald Trump for president and launched the Department of Government Efficiency to cut government spending, Tesla's brand loyalty dropped fast. Though it has recovered a bit since Trump and Musk had their famous breakup, Tesla's brand loyalty is still lower than Ford's or Chevrolet's at a little over 57%. To make sure that Elon Musk sticks around to get Tesla turned around, the EV maker's board just awarded him stock options that could be worth $27 billion. Musk is going to get 97 million restricted shares in Tesla that he can buy for $23.34, while the stock is currently trading at over $300 a share. This is separate from a previous pay package dating back to 2018 that was blocked because of a shareholder lawsuit that's still tied up in court. Tesla's board was worried that Musk might leave the company, so it created this new package to keep him around. Musk would have to stay with Tesla for at least the next 2 years to become fully vested with the new package.
At CSP, we work with OEM engineers across the country on their journeys to lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly vehicles. Learn more at thecsp.com.
The specs for BMW's all-new generation of EVs will rank them right near the top of the best-performing electric vehicles. The first of those models will be the iX3, which launches early next year. It will be capable of charging at up to 400 kilowatts, which gives it the ability to add about 225 miles or 360 kilometers of range in 10 minutes. Overall range is estimated at 800 kilometers or roughly 500 miles on the WLTP test cycle. However, that will likely be closer to 400 miles when tested by the EPA. To achieve those range figures, BMW seems to have focused a lot on efficiency and says that it reduced energy consumption by 20% compared to its previous model. Sustainability will also play a role in its new EV architecture called New Class. Recycled materials are used in the fabrics, wheels, suspension components, and even in the batteries. BMW claims that when the iX3 is charged in Europe, that its CO2 footprint will break even with a comparable gas-powered car after 21,500 kilometers or just over 13,000 miles of driving, and that it will happen about 20% quicker than that if the car is charged with renewable electricity like solar. Taiwanese contract manufacturer Foxconn announced that it sold its assembly plant in Ohio for $88 million. Foxconn bought that former General Motors plant from Lordstown Motors in 2022 for $230 million. Foxconn says it will reinvest the proceeds from the sale into expanding its business in the U.S. It sold the plant to Crescent Dunes, which Foxconn describes as a, quote, existing business partner. Even though Foxconn sold the plant, it says it will continue building products at the factory, where it currently produces an electric tractor for Monarch Tractor. We think this is a smart application for battery swapping. CATL, which partnered with NIO earlier this year to build the world's biggest battery swapping network, is bringing the technology to the rental car market. It signed an agreement with a company called CAR to install swapping stations at some of its 2,000 rental locations and parking lots, while CAR will eventually operate a fleet of 100,000 vehicles that feature CATL's Chaco Swap batteries. So, rather than having to wait around for an EV to charge, customers can have a fresh battery in about 5 minutes. It sure looks like U.S. car shoppers are rushing out to buy vehicles before the full effects of the tariffs kick in, and that could be reflected in the sales figures for July. Of the 6 automakers that still report on a monthly basis, Ford, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, Subaru, and Toyota, the rest report quarterly, sales were up 11% to roughly 780,000 units. That pushed the SAAR, or seasonally adjusted annual rate, up by over 1 million vehicles. It went from 15.7 million in June, which is about in line with last year, to 16.9 million in July. That means if U.S. sales continued at that same July pace, nearly 17 million new vehicles would reach customer hands by the end of the year. However, if people are rushing out to buy a new car now, then sales will likely slow down in the second half of the year. We love it when Autoline viewers provide suggestions for us. Bruce Palmer wrote in to suggest that we look into gasoline usage in the United States over the last decade. So we did, and the numbers are fascinating. Gasoline usage peaked in 2018 when the country went through 9.3 million barrels of gasoline a day. Then it started dropping off. Last year, it was 8.9 million barrels a day, and so far this year, it's 8.7. Obviously, electric cars had an impact. So have hybrids and PHEVs, and even ICE vehicles are more efficient. And this is going to have a lasting effect on how the federal and state governments maintain their roads, because almost all that money comes from taxes on the sale of gasoline. And with gasoline use going down, so will that tax money. Okay, it's time to go over the results of our latest poll that was open to our YouTube and Patreon members. We asked if you agreed with the IIHS calling on the U.S. to adopt similar road safety policies to Canada, like stronger seatbelt and distracted driving laws and using more speed cameras, because traffic fatalities are soaring in the U.S. while they're going down in Canada. And a majority of you, 54%, agreed that the U.S. should have similar enforcement to Canada. 35% disagreed and wanted to see more data. And 11% of you said you have a different idea. And we got some great feedback. Alex Barnett wants to see stricter laws in the U.S. He says, quote, "I am Canadian and notice when driving in the USA that speed limits are much higher on freeways and inner-city roads. And U.S. drivers routinely run red lights, often at high speed. USA roads just seem more dangerous than European or Canadian roads, and the stats prove that." But Keith Mensing disagreed and said, "We don't need Big Brother catching speeders and folks running red lights. We have police that do traffic detail. Write tickets. Make the punishment an actual deterrent. Arrest and prosecute car thieves that cause accidents. Automated systems have their own issues and abuses." And Irvin Wright had this to say, "I agree with stronger enforcement of the law where people are on their cell phone or not wearing their seatbelt. Speed cameras, however, are a different matter. Speed limits are supposed to be based on the average speeds drivers are actually doing in normal day-to-day driving. Where I live, virtually everyone drives above the speed limit, and in my experience, the CHP stops only those who are driving dangerously. Cameras won't discriminate, and slower drivers will cause frustration and wasted time. Thanks for all of your feedback. You really have some great insights, and it's interesting to see all the different views of the people that follow this program. But that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. CSP, the composites solution partner. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. And thanks to the following YouTube and Patreon members.
Knowing that a little rain won't slow down your day. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track tires. Confident control in wet conditions.
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.